Days Gone is a game that I love, and I didn't expect that. First of all, their marketing team did a very bad job. All I saw was a lot of zombies that you have to kill. Nothing special, there's a lot of games like that. And I get it, you have a awesome bike and something like that. The point is that the trailers made for the game was very, I don't know, Hollywood-like. Very boring and not interesting. At least not for me. But after I saw a few gameplays, I realized that the game is very interesting. The score for Days Gone is 8.3, so a lot of people love the game, but apparently Sony doesn't want to make part 2 of the game. I expected part 2 to already be in production because the game ended on a cliffhanger. And because of that, I already expected they know what to do in part 2 and they already started for making the game. I mean, there's a lot of games that are not even released, but they already have a part 2 in production. So a petition with 50,000 signatures was made and people wanted Days Gone to be greenlighted by Sony, Days Gone Part 2. This is why I hate a lot of companies, they don't show exactly how much a game sold. Because I'm pretty sure Sony will try more and more to force The Last of Us Part 2 games instead of games like Days Gone. And that's fine with me, I will play whatever games I want, they can make whatever games they want. Maybe people prefer more games like The Last of Us Part 2, so what can you do? Money talks. Garvin argues that players shouldn't complain if a game they love doesn't get a sequel, if they didn't support it at launch by purchasing at full price. He says that I do have an opinion or something that your audience may find of interest, and it might piss some of them off. If you love a game, buy it at fucking full price. I can't tell you how many times I've seen gamers say, yeah, I got that on sale, I got it through PS Plus, whatever. He also adds that, but don't complain if a game doesn't get a sequel if it wasn't supported at launch. It's like God of War got whatever number million of sales at launch and you know Days Gone didn't. I'm just speaking for me personally as a developer. I don't work for Sony, I don't know what the numbers are. Well, for real now, that's the problem. We don't know what the numbers are. Maybe Sony doesn't want to make more games like Days Gone, even if Days Gone probably sold better than other games. And for real now, why do you compare yourself to God of War? God of War, I know God of War since the PlayStation 1. Most of the people, including me, will buy that game because they know the game is good. They already know the story. It's already God of War Part 4. We didn't know anything about Days Gone. Okay, it's a zombie game and we didn't really see a lot of gameplay. We didn't know the story, if it has a story or not. And when the game was launched, the game had a lot of issues. So you expect me to buy a game that's broken? The updates were over 25 gigabytes. So clearly the game was released unfinished. So how do you expect me to buy an unfinished game? Finish the game, then I will pay for it. And that's exactly what I did. After the first update that fixed a lot of the issue came out, I also purchased the game. But first I wanted to see if that game is fixed or not, because there's a lot of games that were released and never got the updates needed to be fixed. For example, I wanted to play Dragon Quest Builders 2, but I saw they have a very huge bug where you stay in an infinite loading screen when you try to save the game and you cannot save the game. Sure, it's on PC so I can fix that bug, but also why don't they update the game to fix that bug? So they don't fix the game, I don't buy the game. It's that simple. The same with Days Gone. Their marketing team did a very bad job explaining what the game is and how fun the game can be. And the bugs that I saw at launch day, they made me think that the game needs to stay more in production. Sure, the game was fixed really fast, but even so, the game was still broken at release date. So you expect me to pay full price for a game that's not finished? Do you see the issue here? And let's make one thing clear. It's not our fault because the game wasn't finished. If you can't finish a game in time, maybe wait until it's finished to release it, especially if you want the full price. If you don't have time to finish everything, how about cut some of the content? For example, the side missions were very boring. I'm okay if they didn't exist. If a game is really good, I will replay it at least one time. The issue is when you add a lot of filler content, and I understand you don't always have to do all the side missions or and stuff like that, but it's still annoying and it makes the game really boring really fast. But you still want to implement them even if the main game is not finished. And when the game is finished, the side missions still suck. It's like having the best food ever, and out of nowhere comes somebody to add extra stuff to the food and ruins the food because of the extra stuff. That's my personal opinion for fillers in video games and in movies and in anime and whatever. I didn't really have a big issue with the side missions, but if you can't finish the main game, maybe it's a good idea to cut some stuff or at least release the game when it's finished. But overall, I agree with Garvin. Instead of buying all the games that you can find on discount or something like that, I think that it's a better idea to buy the game you love at full price. The issue is that a lot of people don't trust gaming companies anymore. A lot of games are released unfinished, or like The Last of Us Part 2, they release something that nobody wanted. Or at least I didn't want. So what can you do if you buy that kind of game? Nothing. You lose your money and you lose your trust. Okay, so you maybe can see some gameplay and know if you like the game or not, but you can't watch too much because you get spoilers, and sometimes the problem with the game can be at the ending. So a lot of people who don't have a lot of money want to know more about the game before they buy it. And okay, let's say you pay full price. Maybe the developers don't want to make a sequel to the game. Even in this article I see that Days Gone was supposed to have online mode. Well, here we have an issue. With online, you can have a lot of issues. So, if you cannot finish a single player game in the time given, how can you make a game that also has online? Usually with online you get a lot more issues. And online is also something I don't care about. Especially on a console where you have to pay for online. And even if the online part was free and somehow you can play it without a PlayStation Network subscription, I still don't care about it because the main reason I wanted to play Days Gone was because of the single player part. And like I already said, I understand what he is saying. But he should also understand why a lot of people don't buy games at full price and at launch. At least that's the reason I don't buy games at launch. I want to know if that game has important bugs, I want to know if that game has problems with the story or the gameplay. I want to know if the game deserves my money and my support. And I'm pretty sure Days Gone would have sold a lot more games if the game didn't have so many bugs at launch. And like I said, the marketing team did a very bad job. Some boring trailers like Hollywood makes, nothing about the story, nothing about the game. Luckily, I saw some gameplay and that was the main reason I wanted to buy the game. I think the biggest issue right now is that a lot of companies need bigger and bigger budgets. And they usually end up making games that are not fun, that need microtransactions to make a lot of money, that need a lot of people, that need to pay a lot of actors and invest in a lot of marketing. For example, like Cyberpunk, where it was 80% marketing and 20% game. How about make smaller games, more fun games, more interesting games that has a story, that doesn't need a huge budget? Anyway, when I tried to find if John Garvin was the director of Days Gone, and he was, I also found an article where he said that Metacritic score is everything to Sony. If you're the creative director on a franchise and your game is coming in at 70, you're not gonna be a creative director on that franchise for very long. Well, I don't know what he's talking about because the user score is 8.3. Sure, the critic score is 71, but you care more about the user, not the critics. Because guess what? The users are the ones that buy the game. So 8.3 out of 10, it's not a bad score. And most of the people who gave it a bad review was because the game had a lot of bugs. And sure, maybe a lot of bugs were fixed, but some people don't come back to rewrite their reviews. Maybe when the game was fixed, they already finished the game, so there was no reason to replay the game to see the fixes. And this is why you release a finished game. And let's be real, if Sony really cares about the scores on Metacritic or other sites like this, that means Days Gone deserves a part 2 and The Last of Us Part 2 doesn't deserve a part 3. Because the user score is 5.7 out of 10, that's a really bad score. And that's the score I also give it, a 6 out of 10. The game was finished at launch and that was great about it. The game looked awesome, but I also need a story, especially for a game like The Last of Us. But the story was very bad. It's okay if you like that kind of story, but it's not for me. Maybe it was the order they chose to tell the story that made the game worse. Maybe it was the ending that didn't really tell a story. It was just disappointment. And no, I didn't want revenge, but I wanted more. Because by the end of the game I didn't care for anybody, so why would I want a part 3 if I don't care for any other characters in the game? And Ellie was my favorite one. The problem is that they didn't add anything to her personality. It's like in part 1, she was very interesting. She was smart and wanted to change stuff, to help people. In part 2, it's like she wanted to be like the rest of the NPCs. And by the end of the game, she was an NPC. Anyway, back to Days Gone. Like I said, a lot of people are not sure about the games that they're getting. The marketing is not the same as the finished product. The game can have bugs, the game can have microtransactions that are well hidden, or the game can have a bad story. Or let's say at the end of the game, you play a game and you need to grind a lot to finish the game because the final boss is very powerful and you need to get 100, collectibles to finish him. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong with a game if you don't know anything about it. And Days Gone had a lot of issues. But I don't see a lot of people, especially the critics, and even the developers or Sony talk about the issues that Days Gone had at launch. Days Gone had a lot of bugs. It was an unfinished game. You needed an update for 25 gigabytes. There's a lot of people who have bad internet or don't want to use the online. Sure, on my PC 25 gigabytes is nothing. I can upgrade it in 5 minutes, 2 minutes, maybe even less. But my PlayStation is very limited. And I'm pretty sure I waited over 1 hour. My point is that the game wasn't finished. And the game needed a lot of updates to be finished. So again, you expect me to pay full price for a game that's clearly not finished. The Last of Us Part 2 is a finished game. But it's a game that I don't like and I don't want to support. I'm not interested in buying that game. Days Gone was a game full of bugs. And even now, when it's coming to PC and I want to buy it, I'm not sure if it will have bugs at launch or not. So again, I will not buy it at launch. I will wait to see if the game has bugs. Because even if the game is finished on console, the game can still have issues when it's ported to PC. Also, it's a game that I finished 2 times on the PlayStation 4 Pro. And I want to play it on PC, because it's a shooting game and the shooting game is better on PC. But paying 50 euros for a game that I already finished 2 times, it's a bit much. Maybe the game doesn't deserve a part 2. Sure, I love the game, but maybe just like The Last of Us Part 2, the game will not be able to continue the story and everything at the level that the first part finished. Maybe it's just like Game of Thrones, where the ending made by some fans are better than the original ending. Anyway, I see more and more developers thinking it's okay to release a broken game and fix it later. But I see that they're not that happy when people wait for a discount and for the game to be finished. For example, I made a very big mistake trusting CD Projekt Red. And all it takes, at least for me, it's just one time for a company to betray you like this. For example, in the past I used to trust PlayStation. Even when I was a kid and it was almost impossible to find their games in my country, I still tried my best to buy their games in original, especially the ones that I love. Now when I see Sony supporting censorship and other bad stuff like that, I'm starting to regret that I supported Sony so long. I don't care for fan service, and I don't buy games to see naked girls or stuff like that. But I think the developer should make whatever games she or he wants. Anyway, I already talked about this. But Garvin is right. The issue is that he doesn't understand why a lot of people didn't want to buy Days Gone at launch. And a game like Days Gone that's a new IP should never be compared to a game like God of War, for example. And maybe they should hire new people for the marketing team. I don't know why we get so many bad trailers these days. What happened with the trailers that try to show you what the story is about, how the gameplay is, and I don't know, get some useful information? I mean, the first time I saw Days Gone, it was a very cinematic trailer that showed you a lot of zombies and you need to shoot them all or run from them, and that's all. That's not very interesting. I mean, if I want Left 4 Dead, I will go and play Left 4 Dead. But we all know the biggest issue with the game and why a lot of people didn't buy it at launch, because of the bugs. And I said this a lot of times during this video. If Days Gone will be released and it will be focused more on online, sorry, that's not why I wanted Days Gone Part 2. But seriously now, if you want to make more money with a game, I think it's a better idea to make a game that you can finish in time, that doesn't have a lot of fillers, and doesn't need a big budget. Just try to find out what the normal user wants. Sony clearly doesn't want to implement a user review, and that's one of the main reasons the users can't say exactly their issue with the game. I think the reviews on Steam can help a lot of developers understand why people don't like their game or what exactly they don't like about their game, because we need more reviews like that. On Steam you can see how many hours somebody played the game, if he got it for free, when the review was made. What I'm saying is that you can trust that person, or at least most of them, because you can't review a game you don't own. Also, it shows how many hours you played. But on sites like Metacritic, everybody can make a review. On Twitter, anybody can complain, even if it's a child or somebody that doesn't care about games. My point is that the consumer's voice is the most important one. And again, we don't know how much Days Gone sold, how much The Last of Us Part 2 sold. Most of the companies we know keep that a secret, especially if it's something that's bad for them. But even if we know the exact numbers, that information doesn't tell us if the consumers were disappointed or not. For example, I own Final Fantasy VII and Cyberpunk, but I'm very disappointed and I regret buying those games. I was excited to play those games at start, but now after finishing those games, I realized that the games weren't that great. I will not buy any CD Projekt Red game at launch anymore. And Final Fantasy Part 2 really needs to improve their game, because I'm pretty sure I will not play Part 2. The game started like they wanted to improve Final Fantasy, to tell the same story but to add more content. And after you finish the game, and now that I even saw their DLC, I don't trust them at all. Clearly they want to change a lot of things, and I'm pretty sure they will not do a great job. I don't think I need to explain more, that's not the point here. My point is that you never know if a game will be good or not. So we should definitely wait to to see if the game has bugs, if the story is the right story. I mean, if it's a story that we care about and we like. Or let's say you don't care about the story, let's say you care about the gameplay, then you must see how the gameplay is. If the game has a lot of microtransactions, if it's finished. As you can see, there's a lot of issues that a gamer needs to pay attention to. In the past, we had a lot of developers that were in love with their games. Now most of them are owned by corporations that just want to make money. So they just do what the music industry and the movie industry does. They try to copy paste whatever they think they work. They try to give you an unfinished product and they try to give you what they think you want, not what you ask for. I just realized that I don't really care. There's a lot of old games that I didn't finish and I really love and want to finish. For example, I started playing Yakuza 0 and never finished any Yakuza game. But I want to play all the Yakuza games. And now I can because they all got a remake. And that was the main reason I didn't want to play them, because I didn't own all the Yakuza games. I also want to finish the Disgaea games, the Atelier games. My point is that I don't need the newest graphics. And a lot of old games are really fun to play. And I don't want to support Sony anymore because they started the pro censorship stuff. And like I said, I hate censorship, even if I don't care for the stuff that they censored. Let's be real, I don't need to see an ass in Devil May Cry 5. But I have an issue when Sony wants to censorship that. And yes, it's not a big deal. It's only an ass. But the same thing can be said the other way around. It's not a big deal, it's just an ass. Why do you have to censorship it? It's like Sony never saw a naked lady. It's like they consider it to be too much for an adult person. Most of the games that have this type of content is made for people that's over 18. Especially today, I think most of the people don't need a video game to see how a naked lady looks like. Anyway, I always had a problem with censorship, even if it's something that I don't care about. For example, I really hate fan service in animes. So anyway, this is the end of the video. My question is, why don't you pay $60 or $70, because that's the new price of a game, for a video game when it's released? I'm pretty sure most of the people will agree with what I already said in the video. And I'm pretty sure Garvin is very proud of his game and he wanted more for his game, especially a part 2. But he also should understand why a lot of people didn't pay full price for a game that was released with a lot of bugs.